who are the users? Who might have good information? By the way, we lost that contract, and every time I see an F-22, I get mad. But you think about the way the Air Force is deployed nowadays with special forces and stuff. It's like, ooh, I got a little toolbox, boom, overhaul facility set up wherever in the world. It was an important thing there. That information came from some engineers talking to mechanics. So a lot of times it's like, I don't know what questions to ask. Ask a lot and start to learn about what kinds of things. We don't expect you to be experts yet, but you've got a great opportunity to develop way beyond your years in school in this. A lot of times, too, in our process, we're going to talk that there's times, I laugh that I think the EPICS record for going through the entire design process, the fastest, was when I advised the zoo team, and they did it in 15 minutes. Showed up in my office after visiting the zoo, drove over here, and said, we need a $2,000 laser. I said, why? We need to exercise the cats. You're going to zap them or what? They had this complex thing. They knew everything. And what they were is at a time when they should have been exploring ideas, they narrowed down an idea in the car. Like, we got the next project. Ooh, they just wanted a really expensive laser. I figured that out later. We didn't buy it for them. But there's times where you want to say, we want to explore ideas. Remember in the wallet activity where I made you you got to draw 5 different ideas. And a lot of you grumble, like, I already have one. Okay, where do I get the other ideas? So I can lay the different ideas out, and then I go back and I can evaluate them. So there are times in a process we're going to push you. And there's other times where you converge. Now, by the way, both of these people have challenges. There's times where it's like, okay, we got the ideas. We got to make a decision. What if we don't make the perfect decision? Life will be over as we know it in the universe. Probably not, right? There's times where you make a decision, and this is interesting. We had some guys here from Ford that partnered with us in a Habitat house, and they did a presentation, and we asked them, how often do you have all the information you need before you have to make a decision? What do you think their answer was? Yeah, almost never. So I need to get, it's like, we don't, right? And we teach you that's not true. Oh, I don't have all the variables. I'm in a physics class. 5 numbers. Let's look at the equation sheet. 5 on this side, 1 there. Boom, I got the equation. Is it the right one? I don't know, but it's got the right number of variables, right? That's how we do physics. Not right. That's not how, sorry, it's not how we should do physics. But a lot of times you don't have enough, and we've got to make a decision. Your service that you're providing is delivering finished projects to our partners. So we need to make sure we're marching through so they're going to get something delivered. Sometimes we make a decision. That's what the design reviews and some of the other things are for. There are resources here. IDEO is a very innovative company. Stanford, there's some universal and inclusive design and some other resources out on SharePoint. Our design process. I'm going to talk about the first 2 phases. You're going to do a little activity. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the rest of them. One of the differences with our design process is most of them that you're going to go through, you'll be handed a problem with specs, and you're going to be asked to get something that kind of works once. That's not real engineering. Real engineering is how I get something that's going to work. Also notice, once we deliver something, we need to think about how we service things. For those of you on returning teams, if there's a fielded problem with an earlier semester, you're going to be asked to help. Maybe you can't totally fix it, but one of the commitments we make to our partners is not to walk away. The first part in the project identification is just trying to figure out what is the need that we're trying to address. We're trying to make sure that look at a needs assessment. If we don't have, who are the stakeholders? Who do we need to be talking to? Define the stakeholder requirements or their goals and figure out the time constraint for the project. Each one of your projects, when it was started, was promised at a specific time. How many of you know when that initial promise was on your projects? Whew, okay. Next week I'm going to ask the same question. Everybody's hand can go up, okay? That's something to ask. Now I'll warn you, some of you may be appalled at when this started. That happens. We've got some projects that are older, but some of that comes from, remember what I said is making decisions and going? Is we have some teams sometimes will get in and try to reinvent things. And there's a trade-off with that. We want to identify the gap between the current situation and desired solution. What's happening now? What would they like to do? And there should be in this document, what product or processes are they currently using? What do they want to do? And how will addressing this need be important to the partner? And then there should have been a scope for what you intended to do. At this point, and I know I've got some teams that they're in this state, it's not necessarily fun to make sure we figure out what the need is, but making sure we get the right need is very important. What we're not doing at this point is figuring out a solution. Now remember what I said, as soon as you're introduced to the problem, you come up with an idea, right? At this point, I've got an idea in my mind, I'm going to set it aside. Now I'm going to say things that may seem contradictory, but they're both true. I can't fixate on this idea. At this point, I don't have my idea fully fleshed out. But if I got an idea, and I'm talking to the need to say, so if you had something like this, is this the kind of thing you're talking about that you think might benefit you? And if the answer is yes, to say, okay, this is, I'm going to put it over here, in possible solutions, but not the only solution. Does that make sense? So I can't, the two things that you battle, I can't fixate on this that I'm done, like my student team that came back from the zoo, okay? But sometimes getting an idea, remember what I said, show, don't tell? Having a user interact with that might give me more information about the need. So building early prototypes is good, just like with your wallet stuff. The next phase is what the thing is going to do. All right? Here, let me help you. Okay, the specifications. What does it need to do? We're in week 4. How many of you, raise your hand if you're on a returning project that existed before, okay? Raise them high. Keep them up if you have seen the specification document for your project. Yeah, oh, that's not as bad as okay. The specifications are, what does it need to do? And they should be quantifiable. This is important to say, okay, I've got the need. So if we get something that does these things, it will fix the need. Whoops. So we want to understand the context of certain situation. We might start to create stakeholder profiles. Like, who are we going to need to know? And then ultimately, we're going to get down to what this thing needs to do. When you're looking at the context, it's understanding that, and I'll use an example. So when we worked for Habitat for Humanity, when we've been successful, we've remembered the context. Who builds homes for Habitat for Humanity? Huh? Volunteers. So when we come up with a solution that's not volunteer friendly, it could be more energy efficient, it could be more cost effective, but if it's not volunteer friendly, it doesn't meet the context. If I'm doing something, I'm going to put it in a school. I need to think of safety. Does that make sense? So really understanding what is it that our partner, our community partner does, and it's getting their perspective and why that's important. Understand a little bit about the mission of the partner. I think if you have not or not planning, doing something where you get with the partner, if it's possible, and participate in an activity, an event that they do, or spend time at the partner will help you a lot to learn about the partner, the context, and who they are. But this is something that's important. Understanding them as an organization, understanding stakeholders. Who is it that's important? When we did that jet engine, is understanding the mechanics are important. Our competitors figured that out. They talked to the mechanics, they got information. They made billions of dollars. Some of us lost our jobs. Actually, I lost one job. They gave me a job where 2 other engineers that they fired. I got to do the work of 2. Yay. That was just kind of weird. Anyway, stakeholder profiles. So if I look at different people, you can look at what are these people going to expect. So this is the human-centered piece of who is it that I've got to think about. So if I think of one, I can think of what are their expectations or needs, the impact on the project, how I could respond to a negative project, how important they are, their interest or their power. Who's going to need to say yes or no? Like if I go back, like to the mechanic, they may not have power, but this is an important piece. All right, so when I look here, what we're going to pick, I'm not behind, this is weird. What you want to look at in your specifications is you want to start to look at who I need to think about. What I want you to do, is look at your project specification. Now, a specification should be a list of requirements that the project needs to do. One of the things that's really key for, think about it, when we finish our design, how do we know we're done? How do we know we're successful? If our design meets all of our specifications, we're done and we're successful, right? Should be, if the specifications are right. Looking at the different stakeholders is a way to think about what are the requirements for the different people. I used the example of the engine to say, you know what, the pilot didn't care how many tools, the mechanic would. That's going to go into the specification. By the way, what the Air Force did is they wrote that into the contract and we both had to come through, which made our headache a little more because we had to go back and then make sure all the bolts and stuff fit. Okay? Look at this. We're going to come back and we're going to go specification. We're going to go through the rest of the design process. It's really going to help to go into your document. Now, final thought. I have 2 more minutes. Hang on. Here's something you all are going to stop a recent trend. Okay? You're going to be trendsetters. Every semester, we talk to the students about how was the transition documentation? How was the design document that was left for you when you came in? It's like, oh, it wasn't very good. When you go through and you look at your project's documentation, look for the specifications, I want you to be thinking about how you're going to improve it and leave it better for next semester, okay? All right, for the drill. So The attendance, your name and your ID are the only two things that matter, or two of the three things. Put a true for number 1. The question is whether you were here. You can go out that door and hand it to our trusty TA who will raise his hand, or you can hand it to me over up here, okay? We'll see you next week.
Tomorrow, Mr. Oaks. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.